Well, welcome to the Beyond Cinema studio up here at Sundance, Mr. Thomas Balmès. Firstly, congratulations on having Happiness here.
Thank you.
A friend of mine actually made a film called Happy a couple of years ago that included a small segment on Bhutan.
Okay.
And so kind of put that on our radar. Mm-hmm. For you, when did you first become aware of this policy that was taking place in Bhutan to kind of increase the happiness of the population there?
Well, I first heard about the country 15 years ago. In fact, when they allowed television to arrive in Bhutan with the internet in 1998, a friend of mine was brought there to train the local journalists to become a filmmaker and work for the local television. And this idea of like having a place which previously had no television at all and suddenly was like open to the rest of the world with the internet and television, I felt that potentially this was a great story. I was not so concerned about the happiness thing, but I felt this might be a bit contradictory with like trying to think about happiness and having a ministry of happiness and still helping the country to these new things. And then it took me like 15 years to finally find the right time to go and do it. But the film is called Happiness, but this is not really the subject. And subject is much more about the end of something.
And so did you come into it with this kind of preconceived philosophy that you were worried about what the impact was going to be on Pianki and his family? And
well, the film stops when they start opening the TV. So virtually, I don't think no one can think of any preconceived ideas, as I'm not just trying to show anything specific after that. I think everybody can know and imagine the effect of television. Yeah. I did this film because I don't have television at home for the last 10 years. I have 3 kids, and regularly they ask me, why don't we have TV? And I think this film is the best answer I could do.
And so having 3 kids and then seeing this child going through this pending transformation, is it something you've shown your children?
I've shown the film to my children because the film was premiered in IDFA in Amsterdam a few weeks ago. And it was the very first time I brought my 3 kids, 7, 9 and 10, to the opening night. And it was very moving for me. And at the end, my daughter, while she was watching these faces, you know, these kind of blank faces, like more zombie faces looking at the images, she asked me, do we look like that whenever we watch a DVD? And I told her exactly the same. And since then, she's very concerned about how she looks like when she ever watched a DVD. You know?
So she still watches the DVDs,
but she's still very concerned about the the kind of you know, and you can speak to them. Nothing. They forget about the rest of the world. And this image, I always had that, you know. But what is quite interesting is that like young politicians in Bhutan are really getting more and more concerned about potential dangers of television, and more than anything, not trying to forbid anything, but just try to really work on education in schools of what it means to watch this or that and what it is, you know, which I think any country in the world should. I'm amazed that my kids, for example, are not being taught of what is news, what is information, what is fiction, and what it means to cut 2 images one to another, and the whole meaning of that, you know. Yeah. I think there should be some education for them to understand a bit more distance with like these video games and everything.
Specifically filming in Bhutan, was there a new awareness of you with the camera in this region? Was it something of interest to them, or did you find you were able to be a fly on the wall?
You know, I've almost only been filming in places where there is no TV, there is nothing, like in Papua New Guinea, in Namibia, even in babies, in places where no one is used to any camera. Yeah. Which is a best place to be forgotten. Sorry, no one really thinks about you because no one is aware of his own image and concerned about what is going to be, how he's going to be represented, which is a big problem. We have a few countries where cameras and TV are everywhere, like America, and people are still natural. But many other places, like France, for example, people are super thinking what I'm going to be in the film, you know. It's like, and this is a nightmare. I would never do a film, and I've never done any film in France for that reason. So, you know, it's much easier to work in places like that than in France, for example.
And it also gets you away from your daily life, so probably
exactly.
Also
and for my 3 kids, I don't have to look after them and wake up in the morning and bring them to school. So yeah. I can leave that to my wife.
So filming in Bhutan, did you have to get certain permits and things from the government? Because I know that they...
Government is very keen on anything, unless it's highly political, but there is not that many subjects which can be there. Not the only thing is that you have to pay. It's a super expensive country to shoot. You have to pay a daily tax of 300 euros a day. So you multiply that by your crew and the number of days you shoot when you're doing a documentary, you have to be well financed.
The images, as always, for your work are absolutely stunning, whether it's the actual mountains themselves or the kids doing cartwheels or the yak or whatever. They're just so insanely gorgeous. How do you compel people to go out and watch it on the biggest screen possible when we're all so consumed by... Is it okay for people to watch it on cell phones and all sorts of things?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, when I decided to do the film, I really wanted to do it for theater because I was really hoping to do a kind of nothing like we did with Babies, you know, which was a huge theatrical in the US and all that.
Yeah, focus features.
Yeah, showed it, I think, in 550 theaters when they released it, so it was big. But unfortunately, I mean, to have documentaries for theatrical release is almost impossible. It's just, unless you're doing wildlife, there is no way to, and you're Michael Moore, part that it's very difficult. And I've got some very good friends on broadcasting television, which back me up on everything I'm doing, like the BBC, Arte, and PBS in the US and all that. So I decided to do it for TV, and hopefully there's going to be a few theatrical releases. But I definitely shot it with cinema lenses, prime lenses, never any zoom, and really stylistically with, I think, which is more of a fiction language than a documentary language. And hopefully there are going to be a few theatrical, some there and there.
It's very cool. I saw there's a lot of kind of different countries that have supported the project. Yeah. All these different kind of television stations all over the world, and the Finnish Film Foundation.
All the Nordic countries, Japan, virtually over like most of the world.
And how does that, is that just because you have a good relationship with them from your previous work, or?
Yeah. Well, I always worked with international co-productions since my very first film, Bosnia like 15 years ago. And I developed like long-term relationship with them, and they like to work with me because they know they're not gonna have something a bit different, I guess, and because I take the time I need to do it. And I really like a very important backers like Nick Fraser from the BBC, who is here, who is like, once he's backing you up, most of the time you have a few other national broadcasters who are backing you up, and so.
Well, have you, while you were shooting, did you show any of the footage to the people there?
Not so much while. I don't want them just because they're just going to see themselves and then later on think, I'm going to be shown. So right. This is why. But at the end, I showed the whole film. A few times I wanted to see it again and again and again. So I showed it like many times, in fact. But you know, when you don't have a kind of culture of like watching a whole film as a whole, you are more watching this as like slides, you know. And so they were like very interested in some actions, but they didn't look at the film as a whole.
Oh, know. Cool. And so what do you hope that people kind of question as a result of this film, other than the obvious?
I'm not sure they question that much. I think that there is no way for them not to go through the process of just being surrounded by watching TV 12 hours a day, which is a hourly rate of kids in Bhutan watching TV, which is like twice, I think, more than in America. They have to go through that. There is no way I can tell them, or they can even think, maybe we shouldn't, you know. Yeah. So, but I didn't do this film so much for them. I did this film for local politicians, maybe, and for us, of what it means for us to just send this kind of images to these countries. And like, for example, for Fox, I'm sure Rupert Murdoch, after watching this film, will reconsider his whole satellite offer. Don't you think so?
That would be a very noble goal.
I'm joking. I'm joking, but really I'm amazed by like when these kind of countries open up to TV, like the kind of thing they're watching. It's like porn, wrestling, and that's it, you know. It's like basically this was the two favorite program they were watching for years.
When you get any technology for the first time, it's always humor and pornography that are whether it's a fax machine or an email or anything, yeah. And then it takes a while for people to then discover what the true purpose is. So hopefully this is a transitional phase.
Exactly. What is fascinating is really like politicians are really thinking about all that, because this is such a small country that if there is one place in the world where maybe there might be a little bit of a concern of like what does it mean to let anyone produce whatever, and having the whole population watching that for like 12 hours a day. This is a country, because everything is so new that it's not like in here or in France. It's not too late to just maybe regulate a little bit and think about what do we feed with our kids with content.
Yeah, maybe some of that daily shooting rate can go back into the education process to work out how to do that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thanks for coming in and spending a few minutes with us, Thomas.
My pleasure.
Very cool.